In this lesson, we're going to learn how to solve quadratic systems. Now, you've probably solved systems in the past, but they probably weren't quadratic. You've probably solved linear systems. For example, if you have like x plus y equals to 6 and y equals to 2x minus 3. This is a linear equation. It does not have any to the power of 2s, so it's linear, and the same is true with this one. And you learned how to solve these systems using 3 different techniques, most likely. One of them would have been to graph the lines, and then you would see where they intersect. You might have used the process of elimination, or you might have used the process of substitution. Now, what is a quadratic system? A quadratic system is when one of the equations, or both, has a square. For example, x squared take away 3x plus y equals to 4, and y equals to 3x plus 2. This would be considered a quadratic system because one or both of them has a square. You can also get quadratic systems that have 2 squares. For example, something like this. Okay, so that is what a quadratic system is, and the purpose of this lesson is to show you how to solve them. Now, we could technically use the process of elimination, and we could use the process of substitution, and I guess I will show you how to use both for this first example, but then for the next examples I'm just going to choose one or the other. So let me show you how you could do this using elimination. Now, elimination, that is the one, you might have done this with linear systems. It's where you get all the x's and y's together on one side. So I'm going to do something like y take away 2x squared plus x equals to 1. So what I did is I took this equation and I took all the x's to the left with the y, and then I left this number on the right. Okay, now I'm going to do the same with this one, but luckily this one is already as it is, so I'm just going to do that. And then I'm going to say minus 4x over here, so that these two are on top of each other, and then that's equal to 4. Now, the way that elimination works is you are going to try to eliminate either the y's, or you have to eliminate all of the x's. Now, you are not going to be able to eliminate the x's because there is nothing that will be able to cancel this one out down here at the bottom. So I'm going to eliminate these y's. I will do that by calling this equation number 1 and this equation number 2, and you could either say equation number 1 minus or subtract equation number 2, or you could say equation 2 subtract equation number 1. I'm going to do that one. Well, actually, no, I'm just going to say equation 1 take away equation 2. So we're going to say y take away y, which is just going to be 0. Then you're going to say negative 2x squared take away nothing, because there is no x squared over here, so that's just going to remain negative 2x squared. Then here you're going to say x take away negative 4x, and so that becomes x plus 4x, which is then 5x. And then you're going to say 1 take away 4, and that's going to be negative 3. Can you see that we have eliminated all of the y's? And so now we just need to go and solve for x. And then I'm going to bring the 3 over to the left, so that I can form a quadratic equation that I can now solve, either using factorization, or if you would like, and I think it's the method I feel like using because I'm feeling a bit lazy, is to use the quadratic formula. You know, the formula that goes x equals to negative b plus minus the square root of b squared take away 4ac over 2a. And so we can take that equation now, which is this one down here, and we can remember that this is A, this is B, and this is C. So if we then had to go plug that all in, we should find that, oh, it's actually nice numbers. X would be 3, and the other x would be negative 1/2. Now what we need to do is go find the y values that go with those x values. So if x is 3, then you can plug it into this equation to find y. You could also plug it into this one, of course, but it's going to take a little bit longer. So we're going to plug x as 3 into this equation to find the y. So we're going to end up with y equals to 16. So when x is 3, y is 16. Now we have to do the negative 1/2 as well. So we can say y take away 4 times negative a half equals to 4. And so that's going to become y plus 2 equals to 4, and so y is 2. So when x is negative a half, y is 2. So our two answers would be 3 and 16 and negative a half and 2. So that is the elimination method. Now my favorite is actually substitution, and that I'm going to show you now. And then in the future questions that we're doing in this video, I'm actually just going to do substitution. So with substitution, all you do is either get x or y alone. Just get x or y alone. So I'm going to take this equation. Now let me quickly explain something, sorry. If you had to take this equation and you have to try to get this x alone, that actually would not work. Because if you had to get that x alone, I'll quickly show you what would happen. If you had to take this equation to get that x alone, you would end up getting x equals to 2x squared, take away y, plus 1. You see how you still have an x in the actual, this part over here. The goal is, when you get x alone, then this side would only have y. Okay, so that wouldn't work. So I would take this equation, and I would get the y by itself. So that would be y equals to 4x plus 4. And I would call that equation number 3, because these two at the top, you could call those equation 1 and 2. Now, which of these two equations have I just used? Did I use equation 1 or did I use equation 2 to make this? I used equation 2. So now I'm not going to use that one again. What I'm now going to do is I'm going to take this y and I'm going to replace it in equation number 1. So I'm going to substitute equation 3 into equation 1. And so, but instead of plugging in y, I'm going to plug 4x plus 4, because they are equal to each other. So I'm going to go 4x plus 4 equals to 2x squared, take away x plus 1. And now look here, I only have x's in this expression. And so that's nice and easy to work with. And so I'm going to take everything to the right-hand side. So we're going to end up with 2x squared, take away 5x, take away 3. Now, here you can go and use the quadratic formula again, or if you're feeling brave, you can factorize. And you would end up with x equals to 3, or x equals to negative a half, just like we did in this question. Then you need to go get the y values. So what I would then do is take each of those x values and go plug it into that equation. So when x is 3, then y would be equal to 16. So 3 and 16 is one of our answers. Then when x is negative a half, then y would be equal to 2. And so negative a half and 2 is our other answer. So that was elimination and substitution. We've got more questions coming up in this video now, but I'm just going to be using substitution because for me, I just prefer it. It's faster. So here's our next example. So I'm going to use the substitution method. So with the substitution method, you want to get x or y alone. Now here we already have y alone. Can you see that? Look at that. It's all by itself. So what I'm then going to do is I'll call this equation number 2 and I'll call this equation number 1. And all I'm going to do is I'm going to replace this y. Well, I'm going to replace this y with this y. So I'm going to substitute number 2 into number 1. And so what we would end up with is negative 3x squared plus 14x take away 7. And then I'm just going to carry on with this. So that'll be negative x squared plus 10x take away 13 is equal to 0. I'm then going to simplify to become negative 4x squared by putting those two together. And then the x's will become 24x and then negative 20. Now you can solve this in multiple different ways. I'm going to use the quadratic formula. So x equals to negative b plus minus b squared take away 4ac over 2a. Now by now you probably know how to use that formula pretty well. So I'm not going to go type it all in. I'm just going to get the answers for us so long. And so you should end up with x equals to 5 or x is equal to 1. Now we're going to go get the y values. So when x is 5, So then I'm going to take this equation and I'm just going to write it out quickly. So I'm going to replace all the x's with 5. And so if you had to work this out, you end up with negative 12. And then when we do, so let's just quickly say that when x is 5, y is negative 12. Now when x is 1, y is going to be 4. So when x is 1, y is 4. And so these would be the two answers that we have. Let's do one more example. Now this one's pretty interesting. Can you see what we can do here? We don't have to get x completely alone. We can just get x squared alone. We can just get that alone, which it already is. And then we can just plug that into this one. So if this is equation 1 and this is equation 2, then I'm going to sub equation 1 into equation 2. And so that's going to become 3. Then in brackets, because of the 3, I'm going to say negative 5 plus y squared. And then that's equal to 30, take away 2y squared. And then I'm just going to multiply this in. So negative 15 plus 3y squared equals to 30, take away 2y squared. And now I'm just going to bring the y squares to the left, so it becomes 5. Well, actually, let me do it slower. So 3y squared plus 2y squared. And then on the right-hand side, we would have 30 plus 15. And so that's going to become 5y squared is equal to 45. Divide both sides by 5. So y squared is 9. Then you take the square roots. Now remember, when you take a square root, you must always say plus and minus. So y is positive 3, but y can also be negative 3. So let's say y is 3 and y is negative 3. So let's go now find the x values. So when y is 3, then let's go plug it into, we need to find x. So we can take that first equation, which says that over there, and we can just go say that x squared is equal to negative 5 plus 3 squared. So x squared is going to be negative 5 plus 9. X squared is then 4. So if you get x alone, you would get positive and negative 2. So this means when y is 3, x can be two different numbers. So that means that x can be 2 when y is 3, and x can be negative 2 when y is 3. So we've already got two answers. Now we need to go do this one. So when y is negative 3, then x squared is equal to negative 5 plus negative 3 squared. So I'm just plugging it into this equation again, or into this one. It's the same thing. And so x squared is going to be equal to 4, and so x once again is positive and negative 2. So that means that when y is negative 3, x can be 2, and when y is negative 3, x can be negative 2. And so we actually end up with 4 answers. This one, this one, this one, and this one.